Today's episode is 009 with special guest, Mr. Evan. You gonna get this work. We recording live from Houston, Texas. Y'all stay locked in. Nitro.
What's the motive?
So let's start from, I guess, the beginning.
All right. Let's start. So I grew up originally on the south side of Houston. I always knew I was a little different. Mm-hmm. Didn't necessarily know why. I was just always told that I got adopted at a young age. So I have 3 older brothers. Mm-hmm. They're all white. I have a little bit of color on myself. So
I'm seeing a little melanin. I'm peeping it.
So I always knew I was different, but I never knew exactly what was up. They just told me, like my family, they said they adopted me. I needed a home. My mother died when I was young.
Right.
And that was the end of the story.
Right.
So, everything was regular. Like as a kid, I didn't notice things being different. I didn't know, to be honest, how to be different. So right. I grew up pretty generic, white,
run of the mill, just
a little white boy in Houston. Mm-hmm. I can recall Backstreet Boys being my favorite.
Okay.
My first concert.
I was Old Town man, actually.
I remember my first concert ever was Marilyn Manson and Godsmack.
That's dope. That's a hell of a concert.
So I just grew up vibing with my environment. So mm-hmm. we never had like crazy amounts of money. So it was just a family, like in regards to like stuck together. And I just did stuff with my brothers and I watched them grow up. They were all older than me. Mm-hmm. So
that sounds pretty standard, like white or black or, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. I think, especially for America, or anywhere, just folks who don't have a lot that just make the best of what they got. And that's it.
100%.
Yeah.
So it took me until I was about 10 to really start wanting to know like answers, like where I really came from, because right. there were pictures that existed of my mother. Mm-hmm. And these pictures would be like Polaroids, and I would ask questions, and my mother, she would never tell me. She'd be like, "Oh, well, we knew her."
And so your mom, for you, because your mom passed away when you were a baby, when you were young. So that was actually your biological aunt?
Yes.
Okay.
I found that to be later on.
Okay.
I didn't know this at the time.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I just thought, that was mom.
Okay.
Grew up believing
right.
that.
Right.
Had no idea. They just told me my mom died. No story behind it, like no origin to
what happened to her, or under what circumstances did she pass away, and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
nothing like really that would spark your like suspicions or anything. It's just like, your mom passed away. And for a lot of families, I can understand like if it was something very horrible and they didn't want to like tell you as a child, they want to wait till you were older where you could kind of handle what happened. So I could kind of understand why they didn't want to tell you in a certain stance, I guess.
Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
So I remember,
but the story goes on. So
I remember growing up and like I felt like that I didn't necessarily always belong. Like I felt that I'd get to certain points. Mm-hmm. I'd be in certain points and I would just be different than everyone else.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, I wasn't there, but mm-hmm. it was, I wasn't the same as everyone else.
Okay.
So
do you think that was partially, not necessarily just, how much do you think, because you're a mixed kid, how much do you think that played into it versus like you just being yourself?
Well, I think being a mixed kid definitely played into it, especially because I viewed myself at that point in my life as a white kid, mm-hmm. and then circumstances surrounding me and a white kid don't always apply. So in regards to like dating and school, mm-hmm. I'm treated like a mixed kid. Mm-hmm. So I went to a school that at one point that was primarily white kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not treated the same as all white kids.
Right.
I'm not viewed the same, and
Right.
I didn't understand that. Like I didn't
Right.
understand how that was a thing. Like all my brothers
Or white.
are white, so
Your mom's white. Like, you're surrounded by white people. You're not having these issues at home. Why is it that you're going out into the world and all of a sudden there's these issues, and this just has to deal with how much melanin is in your skin?
100%. So I didn't really start asking questions until a little, I'd say about 12 or 13, around 12 or 13. So I didn't know at the time, but my mother was an adult dancer, right? My aunt.
Okay.
So, but my mother was an adult dancer, and before, obviously, we, she was younger, so we lived in a nicer neighborhood. I guess the nature of the beast. But the older she got, the poorer we got. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's not your fault. It's no one's fault. It's how the game goes. In that industry, that's definitely how the game goes. It's all about the new hotness.
So, I'm the youngest, so everything I have is passed down, hand me down. But we moved from, we had a house, and the house was like, I had my own room and everything like that. And when we moved to this apartment complex. In this apartment complex, I shared a room with my older brother.
Okay.
Now, when we got to this apartment complex is when I started like seeing what was really going on, because I didn't know, like they did a really good job. In all fairness to them, they hid everything from me. Like they kind of shielded me from that side of life, right?
What do you mean?
So my brothers, my parents, all of them really big into drugs at this point. One brother, not so much, but the other ones, definitely. So I didn't see any of that. I remember being a kid. I remember like very vividly being a kid at like 8 or 9 and them like locking the door and told me I couldn't come in and being like, oh, go play video games or go outside. Not knowing what they were doing. But when I became an adult, well, not even an adult, when I became a teenager and they didn't have the space to hide these things, they just started doing it blatantly in front of me. So at the time, I'm playing basketball. I have no desire to do any of this. Like Dare was big to me, to be honest with you. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be good.
Yeah.
And didn't know.
Don't say no to drugs.
So they just did them. And I just kept on dealing with it the entire time. Now that we moved to a different side of town. So I have way more of a culture influence. Not where I am today, obviously, but I'm mixing way more with different people.
Okay.
And I'm starting to like see people like me.
Right. So you're moving from a predominantly white area to an area where it's a lot more mixing of cultures, peoples, races, ideas.
100%.
Yeah.
So, my opinions on things are changing and like I'm growing as an individual. But like I still always feel like even though they're my family, I feel kind of like lost. Like I don't feel like I 100% belong.
Right.
I care for them a bunch, but I just didn't feel like that was just me.
Right.
So
and I think for a lot of kids, especially during that age, that's normal. But then you have the added bonus of growing up as the only mixed kid in an all-white family, growing up thinking to be white psychologically, and then having these issues that society has kept going that have been kind of roadblocks to you.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So it all started to really come to like a head around when I was like 15. So like 15, I'm really like, at this point, I have my own job. I go to work every day. I walk like 5 miles a day to work. I'm my own individual. I know what they're doing. I know I don't want anything to do with it. I know that it's just like a situation that I have to be in. Like that's how I feel at this point. Like the family had definitely become way more divided at that point, and everyone had their own devices and were doing all kinds of stuff that I didn't necessarily want to be involved with at all.
Get it.
So that was my life. I just remember you know, every day I would come home and I would go sleep on the futon. And in the futon, they'd be, you know, trapping pretty much. Like, that's what they were doing. Like, so I'd get home from school. Well, I'd get home from basketball practice.
For the folks who don't know what trapping is, can you break it down?
So I would get home from basketball practice, and they would be, you know, at the house, you know, doing things and making plays. So selling stuff.
That's clear. Rap.
And
trap.
so they'd be doing all kinds of stuff, and I would just, you know, that was my life. I put on headphones with my little CD player.
Right, and that's your norm because you don't know anything else different.
100%.
Every kid, I mean, you know, folks like to project their life on other people all the time, but they don't take into account that, like, this is their only normal that they know. Like, this is it.
100%. So my life changed around 15, right around this time period. You know, that's when you know, the MySpaces and things like that started to become
pop up,
real popular, right?
Yeah.
So I had a MySpace, you know, had my, you know, my top 8. Everyone, you know, I had a good jams on there. But I remember it was my birthday. I had just turned 16, and I got a MySpace message from a random woman, and she wished me a happy birthday. And I replied, "Thank you." And she asked me, did I know who she was? And I had no idea. And I was like, no, I have no clue. And she then tells me that she's my biological sister. So at this point, everything really changes because the entire time I'm looking for someone that understands me, right?
Right.
And I have no idea, like, all the puzzle pieces, like how they apply. So I'm just so interested to figure out what's going on with her.
Right.
So I agree to meet her.
Okay.
So we start seeing each other secretively. And she then breaks down the story to me of what really happened and how I ended up on that side of town. Okay. So my biological mother, she died when I was 3. And I was always told that she died in a car wreck, which is technically kind of true. But that was not the actual, like, full story. The story is that she was driving to go see one of her friends. And she had a seizure while she was driving. And she went off of the road and drowned in 4 foot of water in a watering hole for cattle.
Damn.
So the crazy thing about this story is because remember, no one's ever at this point has ever, like, I knew this, like, this person existed, like my mother existed out there in the world, but I've never heard, like, connecting pieces that involved me.
Right.
Because, you know, I couldn't. Right. I wasn't allowed to. Right. So when this person that says she's my sister tells me about how I was supposed to be in the car. Like,
wow.
I was supposed to be in the car that day, and what happened was the air conditioner in the car went out. And when the air conditioner in the car went out, she didn't want the baby in the car, so she dropped me off at my sister's house. They were friends. So
this woman that's reached out to you on MySpace, she is your biological sister on your father's side?
Correct.
Okay.
So I'm still the only mixed one.
Okay.
But my father, that I had no idea even existed at all, has been around the entire time. And not only has he been around, he's been 15 minutes from me the entire time.
But he doesn't know, like, where...
No one knows. So at this point, she tells me the story about how she has me, and my mother dies. And when my mother dies, no one really knows at this point that she's my sister. Everyone's kind of like playing their own part. They believe the white side of the family. They believe that she's just my mother's friend. She doesn't know that
Actually, your
she'd be my sister.
sister.
So when my mother passes, she has me, and she brings me to the white side of the family to explain the whole situation because now everything's different. Everyone agrees that they're going to, figure out the situation after the weekend. There's like he's been through a lot. He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, because you're 3 at this time.
Yeah, he wants his mother. We're gonna keep him for the weekend because he knows us.
Right.
And after the weekend, like we'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. So this is when the story gets crazy. The weekend turned into 12 years. They left, and they moved to the other side of town and disappeared because they didn't want I've had definitely some years to think about this. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like really, really hurt. Like I just didn't fuck with the whole situation. Like in regards to like, I believe that I was just like completely taken away from any situation that I could have developed in, which is true. Mm. But when I have to look on like both sides of the table, and their mindset was that my father, which is true, he's been pretty big into drugs my entire life. Mm-hmm. Before my life too. If you talk to my sister, she'll tell everyone about it. Like he's a good 40 years into constantly just doing drugs. Yeah. It's just what he does.
Right.
He's a very like functioning individual.
Right.
He lives his life and he works every day.
Yeah.
But then he disappears for long periods of time to do drugs, and then he comes back and goes to work. Their thought process, my aunt, who I believed was my mother, believed that putting me in that situation with him, my biological father, that it was going to be a really bad situation for me. So instead of trying to work things out because they believed they would lose, they just took me. It's funny because the irony is, at the end of the day, I ended up in a drug environment and nothing changed.
Right. Yeah. God damn. Yeah, that's full circle, man. Like all the things they said they wanted to keep you away from, they just surrounded you by. But you stayed away from it.
Yeah. It's really interesting now, though, because I look at it. To finish the story, I saw my sister secretively for some time. And about, I'd say a month and a half after knowing her, I left. And
you're 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I left and I went and moved in with her. And I stayed with her until, I started my career. I went to college, everything like that. Like I just stayed with her. So I didn't know her at all. But the connection to her was so crazy because
she filled in a lot of blanks that you had.
Not only that, it was just I finally found someone that I felt looked like me, even though we don't have the same like color tone. We have very similar characteristics, and we do things. So I also she introduced me to everyone. So I had 2 other brothers that were on my dad's side.
Right.
Didn't know about. One of them looks just like me, just darker.
Yeah.
And like so I got to like actually see people that were like me. And then I realized I have a whole entire family, and this is all in the same city. Like nothing's changed. Like it's literally like
same coin, just different side.
It's like riding across the railroad tracks. Like it's a different side of the railroad tracks, and everything's different. To me, this has been like it took some while to get used to, because I went from originally it was like white neighborhood to like, oh look, we have a little bit of culture in this neighborhood, to completely black neighborhood. I'm the only mixed kid. And then it was like flipping a coin, because then, as life went on, we started moving up again to a more like culturally diverse neighborhood. So my personal like thought and opinion on like culture and race is so different than a lot
Yeah.
because of the way I was raised
Yeah.
and the way I see things. Like people hear my iPad or my iPod and it's like, oh,
Right. It goes all over the place.
It's like people say they listen to everything. I'm on another planet.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Like, you know, when you get older and they like you get to clubs and the DJ starts switching up the music, trying to do the crowd control shit. Can't crowd control this guy. Some Kenny Chesney. Thought she was gonna get me out of here. I'll boot scoop boogie all over this motherfucker.
Oh, you don't understand. I got some George Strait in this log.
Oh,
that's
damn.
on another planet. But I feel like ultimately, it shaped me in a good way. I didn't, to be honest, I'll be real honest here. I didn't fuck with the white side of my family for a long time after that.
That's understandable.
Because I found out after you know the case was open, kind of Monte Cristo, we in here, wow.
Right. Mr. Dante.
The second
Edmund Dante.
the second that I said, oh, you know, I know everything, there was just pieces they knew that's what made me sick. Like that's what hurt me. It wasn't that, like, because I could really, like, I could deal with it. Like I could deal with I understand why you did it.
Right.
What I couldn't deal with was, okay, now that you know, let me show you this, and I know this, and I know this, and I know that. And, oh, did you know that she was like this? Like, the fact that I could have known the entire time that you were my aunt.
Right.
And that would have been cool. I
Right.
didn't know that.
Right.
I thought you were my adopted mother.
Right.
And I didn't know, like, I thought these people were my brothers. And they, to me,
They are.
they didn't do anything.
Right, of
So
course.
They are still to this day my brothers. Mm-hmm. But for you to, you know, they're technically my cousins. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here feeling different. And you could have helped me, like, feel way more secure in the situation.
Right.
But instead, you know, you let me feel out there and alone because I was different. Mm-hmm. So it took some years. I had to visit different parts of the world and see different cultures and like experience things for me to go back to them and be like, okay, like we can have a relationship. It's not going to be where it was, obviously,
Right.
but we're going to start from the ground up.
Right.
Now, on the other side of things, with my sister and my brothers, like the black side, that it grew so like organically that it was crazy. Like, like it was like nothing ever happened. Like I was always with them.
Damn, that's cool.
So like,
Yeah.
like we talk every day. Like if we look at like the schedule, because I'm never home. So if we, you know, I talk to maybe the white side of the family, maybe once a month, twice a month at most. Like
Right.
something's happening, then yeah. But like my sister and my brother, like every day. Like
Right.
it's just what we do.
Right. And it's not necessarily that just the stuff that we had talked about before recorded. It just feels like because they're trying to progress forward in life, professionally, financially, and all this other stuff, and you've now developed into a grown man, and you're trying to do the same thing. It just your paths are aligned.
Oh, definitely.
So it's not, just about I'm done with that side of my family. I'm just with my black side of my family now.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not like that.
Yeah,
Because,
That's
like,
why I want people to get the wrong impression on
No.
it. Yeah.
As the years go by, like I'm gonna continue to do me. Like the ultimate goal is to be successful. Mm-hmm. So like where do you derive the tools to be successful? Mm-hmm. You have to use your resources, right?
Exactly.
I've noticed with my personal situation that going down that path of that side of my family is then beneficial to developing as a person for me. Mm-hmm. I can return there. Mm-hmm. I can say hi. I can visit. It's like a vacation.
Right.
But to live on that side, to actually like try to develop as a person over there, isn't beneficial to me.
Yeah. You'll spend most of your and I think that's true in anybody's family, regardless of
Oh no, 100%.
Yeah.
Like ultimately at the end of the day, like most of us, like you're not trying to return to your neighborhood to be like you didn't leave your neighborhood just to return to go back to what you were doing.
Exactly.
The only reason you return to your neighborhood is to make your neighborhood better.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I, in this part of my life where I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to develop, return to that? Like the negativity behind that. So that's how I view it personally.
Yeah. No, I could totally get you on that, man. Especially just like with the traveling and this, that, and the other. Like you have to create a family. Like you have to create your family everywhere you go. Your social network, and it's kind of the same. Like once you are being separated from what you're familiar from, you're forced to just really like double down on who you are as a person and what you allow into your life and what you accept. And when you do that for so long and then come back home, you can't just turn that off.
No, 100%. Like that was one of my biggest fears. Like after I figured everything out and like started developing as a person, I was just like, oh God, like don't let anyone get pregnant because I haven't developed as a human being yet.
Right.
Like. So for me to be responsible for someone else when I'm not even fully responsible for myself yet is like my worst fear. Now, as I get older, that's something that I look into. But then it was just like,
when you're still like a kid trying to figure it out, and amongst other folks out here in the world, just still trying to figure it out as well, and you're having fun. Enjoying yourselves, and not disrespecting nobody. But yeah, and having a tumultuous start, and then you're trying to heal and figure shit out, and then involving another human life, and then creating another human life that you both have to then now take care of and foster and raise and develop, and all the child rearing stuff. It's a lot, especially if you're trying to like really set your own personal paradigms down. Like when you're really trying to like implement the most amount of self-discipline and develop your self-determination skills and develop just like what you want and will tolerate as just a human being, as an individual. Yeah, you gotta definitely be careful with that shit. Because I mean, we've seen a lot of people create a life and then not really still be children themselves. And you don't want to create a repetitive narrative from where you came from and you're just doing the same thing.
I always as a kid, I used to always get mad, and I wanted to go on a vacation. I remember that. Like I remember having this thought that one day I could go on a vacation, because when we come back from summer break, kids would tell me about their vacation and like where they went and everything, and I just wanted to go to I just wanted to go to Disneyland. Like I just wanted to so bad, but I didn't leave Texas until I started playing basketball for real. But I didn't leave, so I remember it was a thought process. I was like, oh man, if I ever have a kid, that I'm just gonna take them on vacations.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because I still kind of apply that, like personally in my life. I was like, I want as many kids as I can financially be able to give them whatever they want. Not necessarily allow them to have whatever they want,
exactly.
but the ability to give them whatever they want.
If you wanted to, you could be like, all right, here's a new laptop and a new TV and a new blah 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 and all this other car and all this other shit. Be able to flex if you want, but they have to earn it.
100%.
Of course, they have to earn it.
But I definitely enjoyed this. It was a good experience,
dude.
To be able to talk about it.
Thanks, man. Like this is. We'll probably do some other crazier stuff, like this goofy shit. Nothing as
too deep
and deep as this, but thank you for opening up and being so fucking honest, man.
Of course, anytime.
Looking forward for the next one.
Definitely.
All right, bro. All right, cool. Thanks, Joe.
You should be watching me. You should be threatening. And I don't need no weapon when my soul is so dangerous. You trifling. You be in the shit that's unlike me. Always talking shit and trying to hype me. I know I never been.